You wake before dawn, not with alarm, but with the silence that always settles in just before the bells begin to ring. The fire in the hearth has long since gone out, and the stones around your sleeping mat are cold to the touch. Your back aches, not from labor, not from injury, just from time. You sit up slowly, letting the blanket slip from your shoulders, the chill brushing your arms like a quiet hand. The room is dim, lit only by a single stub of candle still flickering near the writing table. Its light dances against the wall, casting long, trembling shadows across the uneven plaster. The flame stutters as you stand, bare feet meeting the cold earth floor. You cross the room slowly. The candle wax has pooled onto the table, hardened into a pale crust. Beside it, parchment, ink, and the careful scrawl of your father's hand. Names, dowries, dates. You don't read them. You've read them enough. There's no romance in it, no poetry, no blush, no secret glances through a lattice window. Just arrangements, exchanges, words inked in silence that will shape the rest of your life. You sit in the chair he used last night. The seat still holds the faint heat of his body. The chair creaks beneath you. Your hand drifts to the parchment. You trace the edge. It's stiff, fibrous. You know the texture better than you know the man it speaks of. He is from 2 villages over. His name is simple. You heard it first from your mother's mouth while she cut turnips. She said it like it had no weight, like it was inevitable. You press your fingers to your collarbone. The skin there is still smooth. No chain yet. No ring. Just the thought of them. Outside. The courtyard is still sleeping. The chickens are quiet. The sky is dark. A blue so deep it feels endless. You hear the first breath of wind slipping under the door. It smells of cold wood and distant smoke. The candle wavers again. You lift your eyes to the small shelf near the lintel. There sits the veil-folded linen, unadorned, but clean. The one your mother wore. The one her mother wore before her. You do not remember them wearing it with joy, only with quiet. You wonder if you will wear it the same. A sound comes from the corner. Your sister stirs under her blanket, her breath catching softly as she turns. She doesn't know yet. Not the name, not the day. She's still too young. She will learn. All of you do. You turn back to the parchment. The candle is burning lower now. Its light has turned the ink from black to amber. The letters shift in the glow, and for a moment, they seem like something else. A prayer, perhaps, or a curse. You do not know which. Your father enters without sound. His feet are bare, his cloak loose. He nods at you once, then sits across the table. He does not ask why you are awake. He does not touch the paper. Instead, he holds out a small wooden cup warm, faintly bitter with weak ale. You take it with both hands. Drink. The warmth settles into your stomach like a stone. He speaks after a while, not of love, not of the man, only of the journey. The cart will come at mid-morning. The dress is being aired. Your mother has mended the hem. There is bread in the kitchen. You nod. There is nothing else to say. He rises, leaves. You remain. The candle gutters once, then steadies. You finish your drink. You stand. You move through the house quietly, touching things you have touched every day, now somehow different. The edge of the window frame, the worn stone near the hearth, the hook where your apron hangs. You will not return here. Not like this. Not to wake in the quiet before the bell, with the veil still folded and your name still your own. You find your shoes. You pull your shawl around your shoulders. Step outside. The sky is beginning to pale, a thread of gold along the eastern edge. You breathe in deep. The frost sharpens the air in your chest. You walk to the well, touch the rim. Cold. You don't draw water. You just stand and listen to the sound of a world turning quietly toward morning, toward ink drying on a page, toward boots arriving with a name you will soon learn to answer to. And somewhere within you, beneath the wool and the breath and the waiting, you wonder not whether he will be kind, but whether it matters. The sun has not yet broken the edge of the trees, but light has begun to filter in thin and silver, like thread pulled through cloth. You sit in the corner room, the one with the narrow window that faces the east road. The light touches your knees, spreads across the stone floor, and glints against the small basin of water your mother placed beside you. She is brushing your hair now, slow strokes, careful. The bristles catch at the ends. She doesn't speak. Her fingers work without pause, parting, smoothing, tucking each strand beneath the linen she will soon wrap around your head. You do not move. You sit still as a figure being carved, knowing that once the shape is set, it cannot change. The brush pulls again. A knot resists. She presses her palm against your head and works through it. You wince. Barely. She says nothing. The veil is folded on the stool beside her. White, but not bright. It has the softness of age, of hands that have washed it, folded it, worn it, wept into it. You know this cloth. You've seen it every year, taken from the chest, aired and refolded. It smells of lavender and dust and something you cannot name, something old. Your mother finishes brushing. She sets the brush down, lifts the veil. The weight of it surprises you, not heavy, but certain, like something alive, waiting. She places it across your head, pulls it forward, smooths it along the sides. Her fingers move over your temples, down behind your ears, under your chin. She pins it once, twice, ties the final knot, tight, firm. Your breath feels shorter now, not from fear, not from cloth, but from the way it marks the end of something you cannot get back. You meet her eyes in the small, fogged mirror leaned against the wall. She does not smile. She does not cry. She only nods once, then adjusts the folds again. There is nothing left to say. The room feels smaller now. The air is thicker. You press your hands to your lap, the skin of your fingers pale where your nails bite into them. Outside, someone calls your name. A voice. A man's. You don't rise. Not yet. Your mother steps away. She opens the door. The light spills in wider. You feel it on your ankles. The call comes again. Not urgent. Not joyful. Just present. You stand. The hem of your tunic brushes your feet. You take one step, then another. Your legs feel strange, too long, too thin, like they belong to someone else. You pass through the door. The air meets your face like a greeting. Cold, familiar, final. The cart is waiting near the gate. A man stands beside it, older than you thought, thin. His beard is trimmed short. His cloak is plain. He nods when he sees you. You nod back. He does not smile. He gestures toward the cart. You walk to it slowly. The boards creak as you climb in. The seat is narrow, hard. You pull your cloak around your legs and wait. Your mother hands you a bundle. Bread, a little dried fruit, a cloth with a needle tucked inside. You hold it against your chest. Your father approaches. He places a coin in your hand. You do not look at it. He touches your shoulder, then steps back. The man climbs into the front of the cart. He lifts the reins. The mule groans. The wheels begin to turn. The house begins to shrink. The trees slip past. The stones change color. You do not cry. You do not wave. You do not speak. The veil presses softly against your cheeks with every breeze. You feel it every time you blink. You feel the knot beneath your chin like a second heartbeat. You touch it once, and somewhere deep inside, beneath the wool, and the silence and the stillness, you wonder if he will speak your name like it belongs to you, or like it's been handed to him along with the bread, and the field, and the bed that waits. The cart keeps moving, and the veil does not loosen. The house smells of boiled onions and tallow thick, earthy, clinging to the walls like old stories. You sit on the bench by the hearth, hands folded in your lap, the wool of your sleeves rough against your wrists. The lamp flickers above you. It's shaped like a shallow dish, hung on a bent iron hook, and the fat burns with a dull, steady flame. The light it casts is yellow, heavy, moving slowly across the wooden beams above your head. Shadows settle into every corner. Across from you, your father is reading. His voice is low, steady, dry with the dust of the parchment he unrolls on the table. Names. Again. Always names. He speaks them with the care of someone counting coins. He does not look at you as he reads. You sit still. The air in the room is warm, but your palms are cold. The fire crackles beside you, small and contained. A pot hangs above it, but nothing simmers. Supper was earlier, thin broth, coarse bread, a quiet you did not know how to fill. Your mother mends in the corner, her needle moving like breath through fabric. She hums under her breath, no melody, just a line of sound that has passed from her lips every night for as long as you can remember. You don't know where she learned it. She doesn't remember either. Your father finishes a line, lifts his head. His eyes meet yours for the first time that evening. You nod, not because you understand, but because you've been taught that this is what comes next. He rolls the parchment slowly, ties it with a piece of twine, places it beside the lamp. The wax has begun to pool. It drips over the edge and clings like a drop of sweat to the clay. He speaks then, short phrases, the land you'll manage, the neighbors you'll meet, the space in the loft you'll sleep in until the first child comes. He says all this plainly, as if describing the weather. Your breath is quiet. You nod again. You feel the weight of every word not as a burden, but as something already sewn into your skin. There is no joy in his tone, but there is no cruelty either. Just life, just the turning of days. Your brother sits near the hearth, poking at the coals with a stick. He is too young to understand, but old enough to listen. He glances at you sometimes, then away. You wonder if he will remember this evening, if one day, when the house is his, he'll sit where your father sits now, reading names, lighting lamps, speaking without questions. The room is quiet again. The fire settles, the lamp dims, then flares. The smell of tallow thickens. You rise to help your mother. You take the cloth from her lap, fold it gently, place it on the shelf beside the spinning wheel. She nods. Her hands rest now, still and pale in her lap. You feel her eyes on you. You don't meet them. Not yet. The door opens. Cold rushes in, sudden and sharp. The man has arrived. You hear your father rise. The voices are low, formal. A few words exchanged. The creak of a chair. The scratch of ink. You turn your face toward the wall. You feel your heart slow. Not with fear, but with certainty. There are no more choices left to make. Only motions to follow. Only names to sign. Only beds to share. Your father calls you over. You go. He hands you the quill. Your hand is steady. Though your fingers are numb, you write your name. The ink blots at the end. The lamp flickers again. You set the quill down, and the silence that follows is the kind that stays long after the door has closed. The ink has dried. The name is written. The fire has dimmed. The lamp has burned low. But the evening isn't over, not yet. The house is quieter now, filled with the sound of small movements, your mother folding the cloth again, your brother brushing crumbs from the table, your father placing the sealed parchment into the wooden box with the iron clasp. And beside you, the man you signed yourself to, he sits on the bench, his hands resting palm down on his knees, fingers spread, as if bracing himself for a weight that hasn't yet landed. You do not speak to him. He does not speak to you. Words would feel too large here, too strange, too sharp for a room filled with shallow breaths and the faint smell of smoke. You glance at him. His hair is dark, trimmed close. His shoulders are narrow. A line of dirt clings to the fold of his sleeve. His hands are strong, not like a knight's, not polished or proud, but shaped by tools, by labor, by quiet hours behind walls you have never seen. You wonder if he has sisters, if he has a favorite spoon, if he talks in his sleep. Your hand is still in your lap. Your fingers ache from holding the quill too tightly. You slide your hand against your thigh, slowly, just enough to stretch them, to breathe some warmth back into the knuckles. And then, without looking, without asking, his hand moves. It doesn't reach far, just enough to rest beside yours, open, not touching. You stare at it. The nails are clean. The skin is dry. A small scar crosses the knuckle of his index finger. You don't ask how it happened. He doesn't offer. But it's there. A story you may never hear. A piece of him, laid bare without invitation. You could move your hand away, but you don't. You let it rest. Still, just near his, close enough to feel the warmth that drifts between your palms like breath held too long. No one in the room seems to notice. Or maybe they do. But they say nothing. This is not a moment made for commentary. It is not a gesture of love. It is not a pledge. It is simply two people, bound now in name, testing the shape of proximity. You finally exhale. The sound is small, soft. It curls against your lips and disappears. The fire gives a gentle pop. A coal breaks, sparks flutter and fade. Your mother begins to clear the bowls. The man beside you shifts slightly, just enough that the side of his thumb brushes yours. Not firmly, not by mistake, just enough. You look down at the touch. You do not smile, but you do not move, and neither does he. Time passes differently now, slower, quieter. You listen to the wood settle in the ceiling, to your father's boots scuffing across the floor, to your brother's breath as he drifts toward sleep. And all the while, that quiet warmth remains beside your hand. He stands to leave when your father nods. No goodbyes, no ceremony. He'll return tomorrow, with the mule cart, to take you back with him, back to his house. Your house. Theirs. Now yours. He gives you one last glance, steady, unreadable, then steps through the door. The cold rushes in, then he's gone. You're left in the chair, the lamp flickering beside your elbow, the sound of your name still echoing faintly in your ears, and your hand, now empty again, stays exactly where it was, wondering when it will next be held without words. The next morning begins not with a bell or a voice, but with the soft thudding of hooves outside your window. You sit up slowly. The blanket slips from your shoulders, and the cool air presses gently against your neck. You move toward the shutter, lift it with care, and look out. The man is there, your husband now, though no one has yet said it aloud. Beside him stands your father, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable in the morning light. A third man thicker around the middle, cloaked in rough wool walks between them, leading 2 cows on ropes. The cows move slowly, their hooves dull against the stones, their breath clouding in the early chill. One is brown, the other white speckled with gray. Neither looks young. Their ribs show slightly, but they walk well, steady, predictable. The kind of animals that have value. Your dowry. You've always known it would not be silver or land. Those are not things your family has to give. You knew it would be cows, these cows. In fact, you've helped feed them since you were a child. You've scrubbed their troughs, patted their flanks, once even pulled a burr from the brown one's tail. And now they walk away from your house to stand beside a man you barely know as part of what binds you to him. You close the shutter, dress in silence. The wool tunic clings where the wash didn't fully dry. Your shift rides low at the collar, exposing the thin cord around your neck, a plain bead strung at the center, a gift from your mother, passed down through fingers that rarely received such things. It rests over your heart like a thumbprint. Downstairs, the house is already moving. Your mother kneads dough with slow, practiced strokes, her sleeves rolled high, her hands dusted in flour. She glances up only once when you enter. You sit beside her, together, in silence. You shape the morning's bread. Outside, the cows are being examined, their hooves lifted, their ears checked, their movement watched. You hear the murmured approval of the other man-the cousin, perhaps, or steward, speaking on behalf of the groom. He says little, but the tone carries weight. Your father's replies are short, final, the kind of voice men use when they have done this before. A basket is packed. Bread, dried apples, a twist of salt, the stitching kit, a comb, the veil, folded carefully beneath it all. You are told to carry it yourself, not as burden, as symbol. The house you enter now will not be asked to carry the memory of where you came from. That task is yours. You step outside as the sun crests the far hedge. Light spills across the grass in long golden bands. Dew sparkles along the edge of the trough. The cows nudge each other, soft and slow, their breath rising in 2 ribbons. Your brother appears beside you. He says nothing, just stands there, looking at the man, then at you. You brush a bit of lint from your sleeve. Your father approaches, hands you the basket, adjusts the strap on your shoulder. His hands pause there, just a moment longer than they need to. Then he steps back. Your mother doesn't come to the door. You knew she wouldn't. That's not how these things go. The man nods to you. You nod back. He gestures to the cart. You climb in. The seat is worn smooth, and the wood creaks beneath your weight. The basket rests on your knees. Your fingers hold it tightly. He takes the reins. The mule shifts forward, and slowly, the house slips behind you. You glance back once, just once. Your brother still stands by the gate. Your father already turned away. And beside the old stone wall, the kitchen door stands ajar, a single loaf of bread cooling on its board, steam rising into the light. The cart moves on. The cows walk alongside, steady and calm, like they've always belonged to someone else. And though the road is not unfamiliar, and the sun feels warm through the veil, you feel something settle deep within your ribs. Not sadness, not fear, just the understanding that you are no longer something given, but something traded, and the terms have been met. The house is smaller than you imagined, not because it lacks space, but because it lacks memory. The walls don't yet echo with your breath. The hearth doesn't carry your scent. The floorboards know his weight, not yours. It's built of stone, low-ceilinged, cool inside even in the afternoon heat. The windows are narrow, the air faintly sweet with stored hay and smoke. Your footsteps sound unfamiliar as you cross the room. You carry your basket in both hands. He gestures toward a table. You set it down. You do not sit. He shows you where the water is drawn, where the firewood is stacked, where the bread is kept. His words are few, kind, but careful. You listen, nod, glance around. Every surface is clean, as if scrubbed in anticipation. A space has been cleared near the coda-folded blanket, a place for your things. The cows are tied outside. Their hooves scuff the ground into soft hollows near the gate. They are quiet now, already chewing. They don't know they've been exchanged. You envy that. Later, when he leaves to tend the shed, to see to the neighbor's fence you're alone. The silence feels different here, less known, less shaped by your habits. You move slowly, testing the room, touching nothing. You kneel beside the cot, reach into the basket, pull out the cloth pouch at the bottom, the one your mother packed beneath the bread. Inside it, a folded scrap of paper, a worn quill, a small ink stopper sealed with wax. You lay them out like relics. You don't write yet. You run your fingers along the paper's edge. You look toward the shuttered window. The sun glows through the slats, dust swirling in its beam like breath suspended in air. You dip the quill. The ink spreads across the page in slow strokes. At first, it's only your name, written as you once did on market notes, on laundry tallies, in the margin of your apron hem. But now it feels different, lighter, more fragile, like a leaf pressed between pages. You begin the letter without knowing who it is for. Dear, but the word ends there. You try again. The sentences come slowly, not polished, not proper. Just quiet things you never said aloud. I woke up before him. The floor is smooth and cold. He does not snore. The bread was sweet. The silence is wide. You write until the ink dries at the tip of the quill. Then you stop. You fold the paper. You do not seal it. You do not write an address. There is no one to send it to. There never was. You press the letter into the space beneath the blanket. Let it rest there. A secret kept not because it matters, but because it's yours. That night, you do not speak as you eat. You share a bowl of broth, thin and hot, 2 spoons, no candle. Your knees touch beneath the table. You do not pull away. When you lie down, You keep your hands folded between your ribs and the blanket. His breath is steady beside you. Not close, not far, just enough to remind you of where you are, in the darkness. You whisper the first line of your letter again. You do not know why. You just do. And the words feel warmer in the air than they did on the page. The rhythm comes before the light pull. Press, shift, beat the quiet clatter of thread and wood and effort. You hear it before your eyes open. It hums through the stone walls of the house, wraps around the low beams, and seeps into the air like smoke. When you rise, your feet meet the cold floor with the memory of the loom already in your body. Has gone a reason early, as always, to tend the oxen or barter for salt. He never says goodbye. He just moves through the door and disappears into the pale morning. You wrap your shawl around your shoulders and follow the sound. The loom stands near the window in the corner room. It's not large, just enough for cloth, enough for plain things. The sun filters through the wooden slats, dust turning gold as it drifts over the stretched threads. She is already there, his sister, the one who did not leave, the one who watched you arrive without ceremony. She doesn't look up when you enter. Her fingers are working, swift and sure, pulling the shuttle through the warp, pressing it tight, setting the threads. Her sleeves are rolled, her braid wound tight against the nape of her neck. She hums quietly, just enough to keep the motion even. You sit near the hearth, on a low stool, hands resting in your lap. She does not greet you. You do not expect her to. The cloth grows with every movement, gray and brown. Simple, utilitarian. A pattern begins to take shape. Nothing fancy, just form, just purpose. You watch. Your body is still, but your thoughts are not. You remember your mother's loom, the creak of its frame, the scent of the oiled wood, the day your fingers bled the first time you warped it alone, the praise she gave with a single nod. You think of all that fabric worn now, sewn into aprons and patched elbows, and bedding folded into chests. Her hands move faster now. You glance through the window behind her. Children are shouting in the lane beyond, voices skipping like stones over water. A rooster crows. The world moves, even when you don't. She finally speaks, just one sentence. The warp was wrong this morning. You nod. She doesn't need your answer. She's already correcting it. But the words break the silence. The room changes slightly, less tight, less brittle. You ask if she needs help. She doesn't look at you, but she nods. You rise, step lightly, kneel beside the bench. Your hands move toward the thread. She corrects you once, gently, then lets you continue. The cloth takes you in. The rhythm becomes yours. Your body begins to remember. You do not speak again. But for a time, the two of you work side by side, her breath steady, yours learning. From outside, laughter drifts in. Men, perhaps, or the baker's boy. You don't lift your head, but you feel it in your skin, something you can't name. She glances up. Once, she sees it too. The cloth between your fingers tightens, binds, becomes. The house creaks overhead. The cat climbs into the chair beside the fire, and the loom speaks its own language as two women who did not choose each other weave the silence between them into something usable. The next morning, you walk, not toward the market, not to gather eggs or fetch water, but toward the hills. He asked you softly, the night before, if you would come. No demand, no command, just the question. The words were shaped like something unused to being said aloud. You nodded. That was enough. Now, with a satchel on your shoulder and a scarf tied low over your brow, you walk beside him in silence. The road is narrow, stony, cracked in places from old frost. He does not offer his arm. You do not ask for it. Your feet find the same pace without effort. You carry a jar of preserved plums, his mother's favorite. He carries nothing. The village falls behind slowly, its shape softening with each step. The roofs melt into the trees. The fields flatten. You pass a hedge left wild, birds darting in and out of the branches. A woman waves from the path behind her fence. He nods. You don't know her. You nod too. The wind picks up briefly. It carries the scent of dry hay and something fainter smoke. Perhaps, or lie. You do not ask what she was like, his mother, or what the house will be like, or what she will say when she sees you. You simply walk. A field opens to your left. Stubbled earth. Harvested. The wind skips low across it, tossing loose dust over your boots. You feel it settle at the edges of your stockings, where the leather has worn thin. You don't brush it off. He speaks then. Just one line. She keeps bees. You nod. He doesn't explain further. You imagine the hive-slow wooden boxes tucked beside a stone wall, buzzing with the work of lives too small to notice. You like the image. You say nothing. A cart passes. The driver lifts 2 fingers in greeting. He returns it. You glance up and notice the shape of his face more clearly now. Unshadowed by the house, his brow drawn, but not severe. His mouth soft when not speaking. There is a line just above his jaw, where the sun has not touched. A mark from where his hat rests each day. The ordinary things that only become visible when you are quiet beside someone long enough to notice. The road curves. A low rise opens. Beyond it, a cluster of stones. A house, the one he once came from, and now walks toward. The roof is sagging slightly in the middle. Smoke curls thinly from a crooked chimney. A coop leans against one wall. 2 chickens roam near the step. No grand fence. No cart outside. Just a dog thin. Quiet. Sitting like a statue at the door. You slow slightly. He doesn't. The gate creaks as he opens it. The hinges groan like something remembering its purpose. The dog does not bark. It stands, walks forward, sniffs your hem, then lies down again. She opens the door before you knock. She is not what you imagined. Smaller, straighter, hair bound in a black scarf, apron stiff with flour. She does not speak, not right away. She looks at you, your hands, your shoulders, your eyes, then steps aside. You enter. The air smells of old stone, beeswax, and wood ash. The floor is swept. The table is set with nothing. You offer the jar. She takes it without comment, sets it on the shelf, then looks at you again. Her eyes are pale, not cold, just faded, like cloth too often left in the sun. She gestures to the stool. You sit. He stands. She asks if you work the loom. You nod. She says nothing more. And yet, it's not unkind. She slices bread, pours tea from a kettle already warm. You drink in silence. He does not sit. The air between them says everything. This is not a house of embraces, not a place where affection fills corners, but it is a place where things endure. You place your hands around the cup. It warms your fingers. The tea is bitter, and still you drink, because even the roads that bend into silence eventually lead somewhere. It's near dusk when you return. The air is cooler, the light softer, and the path behind you now feels longer than the one ahead. You said little after the visit. Neither of you needed to. The silence was enough fitting, familiar, the kind of quiet that holds shape, not because of fear or distance, but because there are no more questions to ask, no more answers to gather. His mother had looked at you, not with welcome, but with acceptance and agreement made of bread, of shared tea, of glances that lingered longer than words would allow. And now, the road leads home again, the village rooftops reappearing as shadows against the sinking sky. Inside the house, everything is in its place. The hearth glows softly. The stool is by the loom. The basket of firewood is full. You hang your scarf near the door. He removes his boots. There is no rush, no ceremony, only movement, the kind that lives in those who know what needs doing without being told. The pot hangs low above the fire. He ladles the stew turnips, a piece of onion, broth boiled until it carries the taste of everything and nothing. He offers you the first bowl. You take it, fingers brushing as he passes it to you. He serves himself second. There's no tablecloth, no blessing, just 2 bowls, 2 spoons, and the soft creak of the bench beneath you. The broth is hot, thin, but it warms your mouth, your chest, your fingers. You hold the spoon differently now, more careful. A rhythm forms between you. Dip, raise, blow, swallow. The room breathes in time with it. He does not look at you often, but when he does, it is direct, not hard, not searching, just seen. He eats without speaking, but not in absence. He is present in the shape of his shoulders, the slow way he moves the spoon, the way he slides his foot a little to the side when yours brushes it beneath the bench, not pulling away, not pressing forward, just sharing space. You finish at the same time. He gathers the bowls. You take the spoons. Together. You wash them, he holding the basin. You with the cloth. The water is warm from the kettle. The silence now is easier. You almost speak. But stop. Words can wait. Some things are heavier when said aloud. Some things settle better without being named. Later, you sit by the hearth. He works at the edge of the room, sharpening a tool. You mend a torn hem with steady fingers. The fire cracks softly. A log splits with a hiss. The cat curls near your ankle, breath rising and falling in a slow rhythm. He pauses, looks toward you. Do you need another blanket? He asks. You shake your head. Your voice feels too loud for the room. He nods, returns to his work. But something has shifted. You feel it not in the air, but in your hands, your ribs, the base of your throat. You are no longer waiting to be welcomed. You are here now, sharing spoons, sharing silence. And somewhere between the two is the beginning of something quiet, something warm, something that may never become a story, but will always be real. That night, the wind rises early. It presses against the shutters, finds the cracks between the stones, curls beneath the door. You pull the blanket higher across your chest, your fingers tucked beneath the fold, holding warmth where the fire can't reach. The cot creaks softly as you shift. The bed is narrow, the straw uneven beneath the wool-stuffed mattress. You lie on your side, your knees drawn toward your stomach, the way you always did when you were a girl. Beside you, nothing. The other side of the bed remains untouched, Smooth. Cold. His shape was never there, not last night. Not this one. He sleeps on the floor by the fire still. A habit born of caution or tradition or kindness. You cannot tell. He does not ask. You do not offer. It is an agreement without language. The room breathes slowly. The fire has dimmed to coals. You can hear his breathe, a soft pull and release. Steady. Unbroken. You count it. Not to sleep. Just to know it's still there. Just to remind yourself that even if you are alone in this bed, you are not alone in the world. You shift again. The mattress sighs beneath you. The blanket follows. Your feet are cold. You curl them closer to your legs. You remember your sister's feet beside yours when you were small. How you'd tuck them under each other's legs for warmth, like kittens. This bed feels longer now, wider, even though it is the same size, even though you're just one body inside it, outside. The wind whistles past the eaves. A loose shutter knocks once. You hear it. He doesn't stir. You imagine the sky above the house, blank with stars, wide and pale and utterly still. You wonder what it would be like to lie beneath it, without a roof, without wool, without a name tied to another's. Would it feel freer or just colder? Your eyes adjust slowly. The room comes into soft focus, the loom, silent now in the corner. The shelf of cloth, the small cup you used for tea earlier, still beside the basin. The shapes of your life, already gathering around you like moss on stone. Quiet, unnoticed, unmoving. You exhale. The breath rolls across your lips. It feels warmer than your skin. You turn your face toward the other side of the bed again. Still cold, still empty, but no longer unfamiliar. This is not a bed of longing, not of passion. It is a bed of arrangement, of rhythm, of waiting. You close your eyes. Let your hands rest over your stomach, just above the drawstring. Your pulse beats beneath your palms, and somewhere in the corner of the room, a log shifts in the hearth, falling softly into ash. You do not speak his name, but you think of the way his fingers passed you the bowl earlier, careful not to spill, and the way his eyes held yours for a moment longer than needed. You imagine him still awake, staring into the fire, and wonder if he imagines you just as still, just as quiet, just as unsure what to do with an empty bed that already feels too familiar. The next morning arrives wrapped in mist. It crawls through the fields, drapes the hedges, and presses against the house like a hand searching for warmth. You rise slowly, the blanket heavy with the night's cold. The fire burned low, and the room smells faintly of ash and wool. You dress without speaking. The sleeves of your tunic catch slightly at the wrists, where the thread is thinning. You smooth them down, fasten the belt, wrap your scarf twice, not 3 times. You want to feel the chill today. Hez already outside, his back to you, splitting kindling. The sound is steady, wood meeting blade, blade meeting ground. You step past the doorframe, the mist curling around your ankles. It clings to your skin like damp linen. The morning feels quiet, but not still, as if something waits. Then you see it, the mark, white, faint, drawn in chalk near the top of the doorframe. A cross, small, uneven, with the lower arm drawn longer than the others. Not new, not old, but placed there with purpose. You pause beneath it, look up. You don't ask who marked it. You already know. He turns slightly, sees you noticing. It was hers, he says softly, nodding toward the door. My mother's hand. You touch it gently. The chalk smears just slightly beneath your fingertip. It leaves a pale trace on your skin. You don't wipe it away. He doesn't move closer. He lets the axe rest at his side and watches you. Not with concern, but with patience. It keeps things out. He adds, that's what she believed. You lower your hand. You don't answer. But in your mind, you repeat the words, it keeps things out, as if belief itself could draw lines between sorrow and safety. Later, after the bread is shaped and left to rise, after the hens are fed and the loom checked for wear, you return to the mark, not to touch it, just to look, to remember the way your fingers brush something someone else once feared, or loved, or tried to protect. You take a piece of chalk from the shelf beside the hearth. Your hand hovers near the base of the frame. You don't draw a second cross. You simply place a dot, barely the size of a seed, just beside the lower edge of hers. Not to overwrite, not to correct, just to say, I was here too. And in that tiny gesture, that quiet, careful dot, you leave the beginning of your name not the one signed on parchment, but the one you've yet to speak aloud in this house, the one that is written slowly, in flower, in silence, in breath, and now in chalk. The sun hangs low by the time the stew is ready. The house smells of leek and barley, steam rising in thick curls from the pot that hangs over the hearth. Hez outside splitting the last of the firewood. You can hear the axe rhythm deep, slow, certain as it finds its way into the grain. His sister dusts the table with her apron. Not to clean it, there's no time for that, but to make space. A gesture that says we will eat here. We will share the same surface, even if it's worn and uneven. There's no invitation, no call. The meal begins when the bowls are full and the sun dips past the eaves. 3 places at the table, 3 spoons, 3 hands folded briefly in silence before the first bite. No one offers a prayer, not aloud, but you can feel it in the stillness between movements, in the way his sister tears the bread and passes it without looking up, in the way he nods when she does so, in the way your fingers linger just slightly too long on the rim of the bowl before lifting it. The food is hot, simple boiled vegetables, coarse grain, a scrap of meat pulled from bone and stretched among the 3 of you. It tastes better than it should, not because it is rich, but because it is shared, even without words, even without celebration. You remember a wedding once, years ago. There were drums and cider and a garland of wildflowers. You danced then. You laughed then. You held your cousin's baby while her mother wept with joy. You remember the tambourine, the flutes, the smell of roast meat carried on the summer air. There is none of that here. No guests, no garlands, no raised cups, just this table, these hands, this hour. The light dims slowly. Shadows lengthen along the stone floor. His sister eats quickly, efficiently. She says little, only the occasional glance at the fire. When she finishes, she stands, takes her bowl, and leaves the room without a word. Her footsteps trail upstairs. You hear the creak of the loft ladder, then silence. You are alone with him now? He hasn't finished. His spoon moves slowly, rhythmically. He dips into the bowl, lifts it, swallows. No slurping, no urgency, just motion. You watch him, not for answers, just because he's there, because you are, too. He looks up once, meets your eyes, holds them, then sets the spoon down. Not hard, not loud, just final. The room is quiet. He leans back slightly, and then he speaks. It wasn't how I pictured it. You don't answer. Not because you disagree, but because you don't know what he pictured. And maybe he doesn't either. He continues. But it's good bread, and it's a quiet house. And you don't flinch. You blink once, then nod. Your voice is low. Neither do you. You both fall silent again. He gathers the bowls, carries them to the basin. You rise to dry them. You do not speak again. The fire dies lower. The spoon is rinsed, wiped, placed back on the shelf. The coals settle, and though there is no music, no bells, no laughter in the fields, something in the silence feels full, as if quiet itself were its own kind of feast. It's late when the knock comes soft, hesitant, like someone unsure whether they should be there at all. You're darning a sock by the hearth, the fire still giving off a low, flickering heat. Has just come in from the shed, shoulders dusted with hay, the hem of his cloak damp from evening mist. The knock comes again. He looks at you. You stand slowly. Open the door. A boy stands there, thin as a reed, hair damp, cheeks flushed. He doesn't speak, just holds out a hand. In it, a strip of cloth dark with blood. You know what it means? You call his name softly. He nods once, then disappears back into the dark. He is already pulling on his boots. You follow. No time to ask, no time to prepare. You grab a lantern and the kit, the same cloth pouch you once carried with thread and needle and the soft scissors wrapped in linen. The air outside is thick with fog. The lantern glows gold against it. You follow his steps along the path, your breath sharp in your chest. The man is lying in the corner of the shed, your neighbor, the one who keeps goats and always tips his hat. His leg is bent strangely, his shirt torn, eyes wide but quiet. He doesn't speak, just looks at you, and then at the blood. You kneel. Your fingers find the wound gash across his forearm. Deep, long, clean. A fall, or a blade. You don't ask. You press cloth to it. He winces. You murmur something soft, not comfort, just presence. The blood pulses slowly now, slower than it should. You unwrap your kit, thread the needle. He looks away. Your hands move quickly, but not harshly. You've done this before, not here. Not to a neighbor, but to a lamb. Once. That tore itself on a fence. The flesh is different, but the silence is the same. The thread enters the skin like a whisper, each stitch pulling two edges together that didn't want to meet again. You tie them neatly, cut the end, press another cloth over the line. The blood seeps through slowly. He exhales. He speaks one word, thank you, and it sounds heavier than it should. You nod. He doesn't stand. Not yet, but his hand finds yours, briefly, before letting go. You rise. He helps him carry the man inside. You fetch the blanket. He pours a cup. The goat bleats from outside the shed, unsure of the stillness. Later, after the man has fallen into sleep, and the boy sits watching him like a small sentinel. You wash your hands at the basin. The blood stains your wrists. You scrub gently. He watches you from the doorway. He was lucky. He says, you nod. So was I. You look up. He's not smiling, but something in his voice is warmer than before. You dry your hands, return to the hearth, pick up the sock you'd been mending, and as you press your thumb into the soft curve of the wool, you think of the wound, the pulse beneath it, the way skin comes back together, and how sometimes What binds is not the vow or the veil, but the thread you carry quietly, the one you never meant to use on someone else's heart. The morning after the stitching, the house feels strangely full even, though the neighbor and the boy are gone. The blanket folded, the cups rinsed, the floor swept clean. He left at dawn to check the fence line, but the silence he leaves behind is different now. Not empty, not cold, just present. You finish the sweeping, push the stool back into place, and then go to the hearth. The fire is low again, just coals and ash, but you kneel anyway. Pull a few logs from the stack and begin to feed it gently, building the heat with care. The light flickers across your hands, golden and quiet. You reach for the basket beside the chimney. It holds odd things, scraps, broken tools, bits of thread too short to keep, old cloth too worn to mend. Among them is something you placed there weeks ago, a narrow strip of green. The last piece of ribbon that once tied your shift closed back in your father's house. You'd meant to keep it. You'd tucked it away the day you arrived, unsure why. It was soft, familiar, yours. But now, it feels different in your fingers, thin, brittle at the edge, less sacred than it once was. You rise slowly, hold it up to the light. It dances for a moment, curling from the warmth. Then, without ceremony, you drop it into the coals. The ribbon doesn't burn quickly. It blackens first, curling in on itself like a leaf in autumn. Then the color vanishes. Then the shape. You watch it until only ash remains. You don't know why, but your chest feels lighter. Not free, just real. You sit back on your heels. The room is quiet. The fire's stronger now. The warmth reaches your feet, then your legs. He returns a short while later. Boots dusty, sleeves rolled. You glance at him once. He doesn't ask what you burned. You don't tell him. But that night, when the bowls are washed and the fire is low again, he speaks as you sit together. You're mending in your lap. My father used to leave small things in the coals, pieces of his past. He said it made room for new things. You don't answer, but your fingers pause on the thread, and something between you settles, not in finality, but in rhythm, like fire, like ash, like the slow, steady burn of something you didn't plan, but no longer need to question. The morning begins with numbers. The table is cool beneath your elbows, the ink slow to flow from the quill. You bend low over the parchment, counting aloud in a whisper 5 hens, 2 sacks of barley, 1 wedge of cheese left from market day. The lines are careful, measured, your script narrow but clear. You pause to wipe your fingers. The ledger's corner is smudged with flour where his sister rested a bowl the night before. You don't scrub it away, you simply write around it. This is your task now, recording, tracking, marking the rhythm of the house, not with bells or prayers, but with numbers, a different kind of devotion. You list the wool to be spun, the oil to be stretched, the spoons to be mended, the debts to be paid. At the edge of the page, you find his name, only once, written lightly, almost unconsciously, has not the subject of the linenly mention. As in, jar of honey borrowed from Matthias' shelf, he gave his word, not mine. You stare at it, at his name, not the sound of it, but the shape, how it curves under your hand, how it looks on a page you've made your own. You add a mark beside it, a dot, then continue. Outside, the chickens stir. You hear him in the shed, sharpening the scythe, the rasp of stone on metal steady as breath. His sister is off to barter carrying cloth and a jar of mustard seed. You are alone with the house, with its walls, with its quiet. You rise, tidy the parchment, blow the ink dry. You place the ledger in the chest beneath the window. Beside the folded linen and the wrapped spool of blue thread you've been saving for something finer. You run a hand along the surface of the chest, then turn to the shelf. There, beside the oil, you find the old wooden slate chalk still tied with twine. You lift it and begin again. This time, not a ledger, not a list, just a note to yourself. Left in symbol patterns you once scratched into frost as a child. A loop, a line, a small square. It means nothing. It means everything. Later, at supper, he tells you about the plow how the neighbor swears by a new yoke design. You nod, spooning stew into the bowl, offering him bread without words. He eats slowly, one hand resting beside his cup. Afterward, as you clean, he reaches past you, close enough that his arm brushes your, and you feel it not electricity, but stability. A kind of gravity, a presence too quiet to name, but too solid to mistake. And as you wipe the table, your sleeve brushes your ledger. You glance at it, the cover still slightly open, his name still there, still small, still just once, but not forgotten. Because some parts of love do not bloom. They tally, they balance, they add up over time and live between bowls and firelight and in the quiet moments where no one is watching but you. The door opened just past dusk. The wind came with him cold, sharp, edged with coming rain. You looked up from the hearth, thread still looped in your fingers, the hem of your apron heavy with wood ash. He stepped in quietly, like always. But something was different. The way his shoulders held tension, the way he looked past you, not through you, as if his eyes had forgotten where to rest. He didn't speak. You stood slowly, set down the mending. He unfastened his cloak, hung it by the door. His boots were slick with mud, a deep brown clinging to the sides. You noticed it, but said nothing. Mud wasn't new, but this mud felt different, richer, darker, the kind that comes from somewhere further out, where the land turns heavier with water and memory. He sat on the bench, rubbed his hands together, then rubbed his face. Once, twice, you ladled stew into a bowl, placed bread beside it, set it down in front of him without asking. He nodded. Finally, not in thanks, just in acknowledgement. He ate slowly, deliberately. The spoon clicked once against the bowl. You flinched, though the sound wasn't loud. You tried to read his face, not for anger, not for sorrow, just for distance. And it was there. Not in his eyes, but in his silence. Later, when the bowls were empty, he spoke. There was a man. The words hung. You didn't answer? He looked at the fire. His hand was gone. Just gone. Lost to frost last season. Still works the fence. Said he doesn't miss it. You nodded. A slow, careful motion. He offered me a drink. I didn't take it, but I almost did. His voice wasn't ashamed, only tired. You sat beside him then, not touching, not pressing, just near. He didn't look at you, but you could feel it, the thread stretched thin between the two of you, not breaking, but close. You ever wonder, he said softly, if this is what life was meant to be? Quiet, repetitive, a little lonely, a little kind. You didn't speak. He leaned back, hands folded in his lap. You saw the dirt in his nails, the bruise on his forearm, faint but blooming, the line beneath his jaw where he hadn't shaved. You reached over, picked up his hand. He didn't flinch. You turned it over, slowly, examined the palm, the calluses, the old scar near the thumb. You didn't kiss it. You didn't hold it long. You just let it rest in yours, warm and real. Then you let it go. The fire hissed softly as a log collapsed inward. He looked at you then, finally, really looked, and in his eyes, there was something raw, not broken, but changed, as if the world had shifted inside him, quietly. In the corners, no one else could see. You nodded once, then stood. You didn't ask what he needed. You simply folded another blanket and placed it on the bench. He would lie there tonight again. Not because he had to, but because something in him wasn't quite ready. And you were learning to love, not by waiting for the man who left, but by seeing clearly the man who came back. You wake in the dark again, but not from noise or cold, just from knowing that the day has turned, that the sky, unseen, is paling into its soft, pre-dawn gray. The hearth is cold now, the coals buried deep. You pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders and listen for the sounds of his breath, the shift of his weight, the creak of the bench, but hear only the settling of the house, the tick of the wooden eaves, and your own breath in your chest. You sit up slowly. The fire will need lighting. The pot will need water. The hens will need grain. Nothing in the day waits for tenderness. You wrap the shawl around your shoulders and move quietly. Your feet know the path to the basin, the way to carry the water without spilling, the sound of the floorboard that always complains. You've stopped avoiding it. Let it creak. Let it say what you won't. He rises after the kettle begins to boil, steps into the room with bare feet, rubbing sleep from his face. He doesn't smile, but he nods. That's enough. You hand him a cup. Not hot yet, but warm. He drinks it slowly. You sip yours in silence. The fire crackles. The air between you is calm, not sweet, not charged, just still. And in that stillness, something solid has begun to form. This is not a love story. No letters pass beneath doors. No whispered declarations by candlelight. No promises of forever carved into trees. It is 2 spoons in a basin, 2 boots by the threshold, 2 lives folded into the same linen, the same bread, the same ache in the knees after harvest. He fixes the roof without being asked. You patch the hem of his cloak without telling him. He brings back the broom you mentioned missing. You press an apple into his hand after supper. Neither of you says thank you. Neither of you needs to. There is a comfort in the rhythm. Not passion, not poetry, but peace. A quiet pact. A daily agreement. Sometimes, when he's mending tools at the table, you sit beside him with your stitching, and your elbows touch. Just once. Just enough. And neither of you pulls away. Sometimes, he looks at you after the chores, when the light falls low on the wall, and you don't speak. He just looks, and sometimes, you look back, not searching, not waiting, just seeing. You don't tell him that you no longer miss the life you left. You don't say that the silence between you has become the softest part of your day. You just fold his shirts a little more carefully, place the spoon a little nearer his hand, sit a little longer by the fire before standing to turn down the bed. And if one night he chooses not to lie on the bench, but steps into the cot beside you, says nothing, and simply lets his hand rest near yours. You will not flinch. You will not speak. You will let the warmth of his palm become the story, the only one you need. Not a love story, but something that stays. The snow came quietly, not a storm, not a flurry, just a dusting, a quiet grace that settled across the yard before dawn, softening the edges of everything it touched. The fence posts wore white caps. The stone path disappeared. Even the crooked cartwheel leaned gently under the weight of it. You saw it first from the window, breath fogging the glass, fingers pressed to the sill. You didn't say anything, just watched. He rose not long after, boots already near the fire, his hands calloused and sure as he fastened the cloak. He didn't speak either. There was no need. You handed him his gloves without thinking. He took them with a nod, and for a brief moment, your hands brushed. The warmth there stayed longer than it should have. Later, you swept the hearth the same way you always do. You folded the cloths the same way. You turned the spoons upright in the jar by the basin not because you were taught to, but because that's how you do it now. And when the sun reached the far wall, you lit the lamp before it was truly dark. He came in with snow on his shoulders. You brushed it off. Neither of you spoke about it. These are not the grand moments. They are not vows or confessions or miracles. They are habits, small, shared rituals stitched into the hours the way he passes the salt without you asking, the way you set his cup out before he enters the room, the way your hands meet sometimes as you both reach for the same bowl, the way you don't move away. You sit together more now. In the evenings, you by the fire, him sharpening blades or carving small repairs into the handles of tools. The sound is familiar, not disruptive. You sew, sometimes hum. Though you don't notice it, he does. But he never says a word. One night, you lean back against the hearth wall and stretch your legs. He looks at you for a long time, then shifts closer, not to speak, not to ask, just to be beside you. His shoulder brushes yours. You don't move. The cat curls between you. The coals hiss softly. You stay like that, saying nothing. Later, when he rises and turns toward the cot, he hesitates. You see it. The question is in his hands, not in his mouth. You lift the blanket. He lies beside you. He doesn't reach for you, but his arm rests near yours. His hand row. Warm stays open. Palm up. Just close enough. You don't take it. You don't have to. It's there. That's enough. And in the stillness between your breaths, you feel it. Not passion, not promise, but peace. The kind that doesn't ask for attention. The kind that grows in silence. The kind that rises slowly, without edges. Until one day, you find yourself setting 2 cups on the table, folding his cloak before the weather turns, and sleeping better because he's breathing beside you. This was never a love story, but it became something stronger. It became habit, and in that habit, a quiet, steady love took root, not in the songs, but in the small, forgotten moments that never needed to be remembered.